be added to two different accounts. One was a store account and one was a regular credit card. And we waited for a couple of months and nothing showed up with the store account. Didn't show up at all. So we gave the store account a call, said, hey, what's going on? The store account claimed that they do not report authorized users on the credit reports. Now, I happen to know, as that individual, the client would not know this, but I happen to know that that's not correct, because I have other clients that are authorized users with this same particular store. The credit card is being governed and managed by the same company, and they are being reported. So we had to go through a couple of hoops, make a couple of phone calls, but we got that particular card done. I also want to mention, because it just happened to pop in my head, that particular client as well, on the major credit card that they were on, the credit card was only reflecting on one credit bureau for that client. So it was only reporting, I don't remember which one, but let's just say for this example, it was Experian. So that card was only reporting on Experian. So her Experian credit score was higher than her TransUnion and her Equifax was. But I was trying to figure out what's the problem, what are we missing here, and that what the problem was. So when I discovered that it was missing from those other two credit reports, simply had to make a call to the credit card company. And yes, you as the authorized user, you can call the credit card company at that time. You can call the credit card company and you can make sure that you let them know that it's missing on the other two credit reports or the other one credit report, or it's missing on all of your credit reports. Make sure you give them a call so it can be reflected. Now, they'll go ahead and they'll add them. Hopefully, they'll go ahead and add them. Most major credit cards are going to be reflected to all three credit bureaus, but something you may not know is that they're not obligated to. So it could be the possibility that you have a card or a company that doesn't report to one credit bureau or the other, but for the most part, they'll report to all three because they want to be considered, one of the major credit cards out there. And to do so, you've got to be on TransUnion, on Equifax, and on Experian to be that way. So make sure that you go ahead and you associate yourself with somebody that has good credit, and you can do that by being an authorized user. You can't be an authorized user on somebody's car. That's like being a cosigner. It's not the same thing. You can't be an authorized user on somebody's mortgage. It's not the same thing. You can't do the same thing on a personal loan. Those are not the same things. That's not being an authorized user. If you've got the ability to talk to Sprint because you're on that phone with somebody else, that's not being an authorized user. It's talking about credit cards and being able to be associated with that particular credit card. So that's another way, of course, that you can go ahead and help improve your credit. Now, I just talked about a little bit about your debt utilization. I beat this one to death only because, well, not only, but for a few reasons. One of the reasons is that most people don't know that your debt utilization is 30% of what makes up your credit score. A lot of people think that really if I just make my payments on time, that's going to be enough. They do know that, if I have a bunch of inquiries, that's going to hurt my credit score. But they usually don't know that the amount of debt that they carry is impacting their credit score as well. Your debt utilization is impacting your credit score. So it's 30% of your credit score. 35% of your credit score is your payment history. So it's the second highest in there. So if you really, really, really want to improve your credit score, you got to tackle your debt. Mainly the debt that's on your credit cards. You got to tackle that debt. Now, you can tackle the debt by paying them down, right? You can make extra payments on your credit cards. You can pay those balances down. You can do that. That's one way of doing it. And there's a couple of ways you can do that to try to eliminate that debt. We've talked about the snowball and the avalanche, which are two ways that you can get rid of some of your debt. You can do that and get your debts down for your debt utilization. You can do it that way. Very smart way to do it. It helps you out financially. Definitely helps you out financially. Then it's going to help you out with your credit score as well. When you do that, then hopefully you can even get better interest rates down the line when you get a better credit score. So it helps that way. Now, another way you can do that instead of just paying it down, another way, or you can use this in combination. I like to use it in combination. So listen to this. So when you're trying to get your debt utilization down, one, you can do it by paying, but two, you can do that as well by increasing the limits on your credit cards. So if you have a decent credit score, if you have a good payment history and track record with a particular credit card, you may be able to give them a call and say, hey, I would like you to increase my credit limit. And them increasing your credit limit without you increasing your balance, without you going out and going on a shopping spree and increasing your balance, if you do that, when you increase your credit limit, then it lowers your debt utilization for that particular card. So if you had 3 or 4 cards or 5 cards and you did the same thing with all of those cards, it's going to increase the limits that you have, and that's definitely going to reduce your debt utilization. So if you don't have that extra money, you've been paying all your bills on time, you're covering everything, but you don't have the extra money to get rid of this credit card debt, and a lot of people don't. They don't have that extra money to get rid of this credit card debt. A way of decreasing your debt utilization would be for you to get increases on your credit cards of the limits. And simply, all you have to do is make a call. Now, some places will say, hey, we're going to run a regular credit report on you. So you're going to get that ding, if you will, for the inquiry. So you might get that. Other places won't do that. Other places will say, hey, we're looking at what we have on record here. You've never missed a payment, X, Y, Z. This is what's going on. We can increase your credit. You can increase your credit limit. So they may be able to do that for you without any fuss or muss. In 5-10 minutes what's going on, and that may be able to help you with your debt utilization. Once that's reflected on your credit report, things take about 30 days to get done, 30, 45 days. Once it's reflected on your credit report and that debt utilization is down, then you're going to see increase in your credit scores. Debt utilization is a huge part of everything that you should be doing when it comes to you getting your credit scores up. All right, so let me take a pause for the calls right quick and then throw out a couple more shout outs. A couple weeks ago, Xavier Walls, he celebrated their birthday. Happy birthday to you. Felicia Randolph celebrated their birthday. Happy birthday. Willie Mack, yes, Willie Mack, William McMillan celebrated their birthday. Nelson Fent the fourth celebrated their birthday a couple of weeks. Antoinette Mann, that's ex-roomie, she celebrated her birthday. Tanja Thompson, she celebrated her birthday. My cousin Kayla Bodie celebrated her birthday, so happy birthday. Shout outs to all of you guys. Renee Roby, she celebrated her birthday as well. And check this out. If you were a IU, Indiana University basketball fan back in the 90s, Jamal Meek, he celebrated their birthday a couple of weeks ago as well. So happy birthday to you, Jamal. And Patrice Walker, she celebrated her birthday as well. I think that's all the shout outs. So now I'm done with that. Let's jump back into the rest of the show, and I'm going to let you go for this particular Saturday. All right, so you got your debt utilization down, right? Of course, we said you're going to make your payments on time. You got your authorization. So you want to do be an authorized user on somebody with a good account, and then you're going to pick that one card, that reward card or whatever it is, and that's the card that you're going to use on a monthly basis instead of doing everything else that you've been doing. All right, now some of the other things that you want to do is to I already talked about you improving your debt ratio, so make sure you do that. Any strategy at all when it comes to your credit, you've got to make sure that debt portion is a big part of it. Now, one of the other things you want to do, of course, is to minimize your hard inquiries. So, I just said, if you call the credit card company and you want to get that increase, they might give you a hard inquiry. They may or may not. So, since you're calling them internally, they may do a soft one, and they'll be able to look at your credit without causing you any flux at all. But you want to minimize them. The credit bureaus say that more than 6 inquiries is too many. So when you get to 6, that's too many. So if you've got 2 inquiries, you've got 4 inquiries, you're all right. You're doing okay. So just make sure you don't go out applying for everything willy-nilly when it comes out to your credit. You don't want to do that. Now, again, the caveat is if you're going to go looking for a car or if you're going to go looking for a mortgage, you can shop those things. In the newer scoring systems, you actually have 30 days to shop for a mortgage or a car, and you only be dinged, if you will, just one time, as if you did one inquiry. Not everybody's using the newer systems, so it's safer for you to use the 14-day. So in 2 weeks, on Monday, you started looking for that mortgage. You called, this bank, that bank, this mortgage company, the other mortgage company, you called a credit union. You did all those things on Monday, one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday, one on Thursday, then you're perfectly fine. You got a 14-day window to do it where you'll only be dinged for one inquiry. Now, if you go past that 14-day window, and you do it again, you start all over again doing the same thing, again, then you'll only get dinged one time as well. So if you do it that way, that's going to help you limit all of the inquiries and not have so many points come off your credit report. That's what you want to do when it comes to that. So I talked to Experian, the guy that heads up the business development for them, or education for the United States, and he said that you can actually be dinged 5 to 10 points per inquiry. That's a lot of points to come off. Typically, I see 2, 4, 6, but he said it could be 5 or 10. That's a lot of points to come off your credit report just for applying for something. So make sure that you watch what you're doing. That's one of the other reasons that mortgage lenders tell you, do not go out messing with your credit and applying for things while we're in this process of getting your loan approved or before we close. Don't do that, because sometimes, 5 points, 10 points can make the difference between if you're approved or not, or the difference between whatever your interest rate is going to be for you. So make sure that you minimize those hard inquiries. So let's talk about credit length. Let's move to the length of your credit. So there's a portion that says length of credit. I call it the average length of credit because that's exactly what they do. They take your oldest account, they take your newest account, and everything in between, and they average them out. And they'll say, this is your credit life. So this is the length of your credit history. So if you've got a 7-year credit history length, that's pretty good. If you've got a 10-year one, that's great. If you've got a 2-year one, that's not so good. If you've got one that's 3 years, that's not the best, all right? So it's your credit length. So I don't want you to get upset if you look at, say, Credit Karma, and they say your length of history is only 5 years. You're like, man, I've had a credit card since 2000. So how in the world, I bought my first car in 1999. So how in the world do I only have, this short credit history? That's not the case. So they're taking the average of those things for you. So you want to do that. You want to make sure that you want to look at your average length of history on them. Now, people always ask, so when can I close a credit card? Because I never suggested you close a card. You pay it off. We always talk about paying them off, getting out of debt, and helping our debt utilization. And people want to pay them off and close them. So if you've had this credit card for 10 years, you don't want to close the credit card. If that credit card isn't hurting you, quote unquote, if it's not hurting you, if you don't have an annual fee on it, things like that might be hurting you, leave that card open if it's been open for a long time. Leave that card open. It's helping you. It's helping your credit. Your length of history is 15% of your credit score. It's the third highest thing. So right after payment history is first. Then you have that debt utilization. And then third is your length of history. So if you've got an old card, don't close it. Now, some of you people have already done that. You've already closed them. You got ticked off, or you were just happy that you finally paid somebody off and you didn't want to deal with them anymore, and you closed that card. That hurts your credit to do so. And unfortunately, you can't go back and open that particular card again. Typically, you can't do that. You have to start all over again. Even if it's with the same company, you have to start all over again with that particular card. So what you want to do is keep your older accounts open when it comes to your credit cards and things of that nature. So if you got a car and you're going to pay your car off, you got 60 months. You're going to pay it off. That's just it. You pay it off, and maybe it shrinks your length of history a little bit, but that's the way the system works. But if you have the option and you have a choice, like you do with your credit card, don't pay that old credit card off. If you're going to pay a card off, the one you want to pay off is one that has the shortest history. So if you've had it the least amount of time, if you will. So if you've only had a car for 2 years and you gotta close a car, you want to close a card or whatever, then that one doesn't hurt you as much as ones that are older. So try to keep your older cards open. If you don't need to close the card, then don't close the card. Now, if you've got cards that you're not using at all, they do have a high interest rate, or they have a annual fee. You don't want to pay the annual fee. Then you could just give them a call. Give them a call. Ask them to waive your annual fee. It's a possibility that they will waive your annual fee. So if your annual fee is $75, if it's $85, if it's $45, you haven't used the card in 2 years, but you get this bill at the beginning of the year or whenever you open that card, your anniversary of opening that card,